different metals. And the different metals in trace amounts are really the nutrients we're talking about people not getting.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is if you have a little worm farm, you can just throw your old mushrooms that you're not eating in there and let them eat the rest of them down, and start creating that part into the component of your worm farm and the juice.
Mushrooms don't get to go to waste and not get eaten. I guess if they're already bug eaten, we don't pick them in the first place. But there's.
I'm talking like in.
You're talking.
One of the things.
Yeah, you're talking about people who live in normal houses and do normal things, not me.
Right. But I'm just saying that, one of the things that I have people do when I start teaching how to build biodynamic compost is I like them mushroom rich. So,
yes.
I always tell them, like, make sure you go to the store and buy, every type of mushroom that you can get your hands on and put, like, 3 or 4 of each kind into your compost so that now you have a mycelium compost in there so that whatever you transfer into other areas, you're transferring, some sort of mycelium into those areas. And I have to tell you, like, Nevada, we just don't have mushrooms, right? I mean, you might at certain times of the year, like, let's just say after the snow melts, you can go up into the mountains like the Sierra Nevadas and probably find mushrooms growing somewhere. But as it gets drier in the year, I mean, it's like gone. So it would be a very, very short season. Down here in Reno, you may have mushrooms growing in lawns and stuff like that, but that's, as it heats up, you're not going to really have that as well. But one of the really cool things I fixed, and you can go to the Consciousness of Economics and Urban Farm Project YouTube channel. I've got lots of different stuff on there. But so I was helping a friend of mine fix his garden because it was like overgrown with grass and all kinds of stuff. And so I have all these videos that kind of show start to finish. But one of the things that's been really amazing is because of I went and sourced out everything in the environment. He lives kind of on the outside of town. And so I found old heaps of 15-year-old horse poop. I found, a whole bunch of like wood chips from an area where wood had been chopped. Just different kinds of things that I brought in. And I only bought 1 box of kelp meal for short-term nutrient.
Mm-hmm.
But then I, put all this other stuff on the soil and dug it into the sand. I mean, it's the desert, it's sand. And so that I could bring the microbes into the garden so that they would have something to eat, right? And then they would break that down long-term into the soil, making it a little bit more aerated and have a little bit more long-term nutrient. So I like to try to source out stuff in my environment, you know what I mean, for free, in order to fix, especially sand, because, you've got to do a Jesus Christ of farming. You got to turn sand into soil, but you got to turn sand into dirt and then turn it into soil, right?
Absolutely.
So I like to jump through all this stuff. But so I brought in some plants from Sacramento from my cousin. She's a herbalist. I planted a lot of native seeds. I've got all kinds of different communities of things, herbal plants and flowers that are supporting the garden. I call it the garden support area because they're going to bring in different kinds of things and bees and different kinds of stuff. But I have actually mushrooms growing in this one area, and mushrooms that, I've never seen in Nevada before. And I thought, that is pretty cool considering this was dead sand. And within a short period of time of 3 months, now I have mushrooms growing naturally, which tells me that I'm bomb,
Yep.
Like I am the amazing soil restorer to have mushrooms show up that soon without having used anything that was not natural. And also most of the components I used, I found, right, from different people in the area.
Take a couple pictures of your mushrooms and you can send them to me or put them on Skype and I can identify them. I'm pretty good at mushrooms.
Okay. Well, I've only got one kind that's been growing.
Right.
And so I'll send you I just got another one yesterday, so I've only had 2 of them. But it just tells me that, I got the chemistry right between the medicinal plants and flowers
Yep.
and the garden area, and then everything that I included into it. And so for
Put
me, it was like
put
it was
something like a
mastery.
key or a lighter in the picture so I can tell what relative size it is.
Okay. But this is the cool thing about it was that when the first mushroom popped up, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, you are a master gardener now. 8 years that I've been doing this, right? 8 years I've been doing the hands-on work, and 8 years later, finally, immediately, within months after getting it, right, the mushroom pops up, and you go, now I'm a master gardener. Now I'm a master soil maker. I finally got it right. So this year was really kind of a happy thing for me, and I did like a happy dance because 8 years of study and hard work and everything else, and it finally pays off. The mushroom pops up and says, "You did it!"
Yep, that's how I feel when I won my that's exactly how I felt when I won my existence game by reaching a criteria that I had set 15, 20 years ago of being able to make an organizational group that could function as a group and not need me to be a part of the function. And I achieved that and saw it happen for enough to declare that the game now had been won. I can start playing the next game. But as a game inventor, that game took me 20 years to work my way through it. To have something that's full, complete, that I can comfortably share with other people. But it's really a game to climb into yourself and then self-reveal yourself so you know where you're coming and can climb out the back end. And, well, I think you've achieved the level also where now you've gotten your edification. You eight is the sixth Fibonacci number. 112358. So to get to a sixth level of mastery of working with soils is pretty awesome. The next level of mastery is 13, but 5 more years of growing soils and looking at things, and it'll shape that perspective too. So really, really awesome.
The good thing is I'm, ever since I saw that, biodynamic compost, I just became like a total compost wacko and soil regenerator nutbag. So I think, I still have a lot to learn in those areas, you know what I mean? And the other thing too is, I go to so many different places that I don't always have like the same place to focus in on. So every place that I go is a little bit different, and where I try to rebuild soil or teach the people to rebuild it for like a backyard grow. Mm-hmm. Or I go out and look in the environment to see what is going on, and then have to kind of coordinate something to kind of like help it. And then I always try to outsource in my neighborhoods or my community. Things that I can find, because you never want to put fresh compost ever on your garden. It will burn it, and it'll actually destroy it.
Right.
So 15-year-old piled horse poop is perfect, but 2 years, 3-year-old pile of horse poop not good. Too hot, and also you're going to have a lot of weeds because the seeds haven't broke down yet, because horses. Their guts don't break down the seeds, where cows, they have 4 guts, so they break down pretty much everything.
I had a horse who we got when we moved on to my farm in 1992, and it was a broken down 17-year-old nag, and my wife convinced me that we should take it on for a couple years because it was in a racing stable and one of her friends had it and wanted to give it to her. So we took on the horse, and 17 years later, the horse passed away. So I learned to compost with horse manure very well and learned the degree of how to make it break down. That I think cow manure for compost is a real treat. But here...
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, like, and here where I'm at right now, before I hit the road, it's all horse people, out here in the desert.
Right.
So you can find some really great old horse piles of horse pucky that is in perfect condition. But yeah, cow is the best. But anything that you want to grow, there's a different, relationship. Like, for root vegetables, pigs are the best. What do they eat? They eat a lot of rooting if you allow them to root. You never want to use pig manure where they fed it human food, though. That's just not, it's not going to be a good thing. It's not a good thing for the pigs either. People are like, oh yeah, let's feed them slop. Oh yeah, slop's the stuff from your household. Slop is better fed to the chickens and the turkeys. They're better because they're raptors. They can eat anything and break it completely 100% down. Pigs are more like mammals. I mean, look at what happens when you feed. I mean, pigs are close to humans. Bears are close to humans. And, you feed them, you start feeding them what we're eating, bread and whatever else that's in that slop. It just makes them sick. And then they're not going to be, far beyond. I just got this book and I haven't been able to read it yet, but it's Plowing with Pigs. And this guy talks about how, you can create areas in environments, like make nut trees or whatever else, and that the pigs can root, depending on the size. Say a 600-pound pig can root down almost 6 feet, which means they can dig under 6 feet and clean up whatever's going on there, like bad plants or root plants or insects, like bad insect stuff. And then they can aerate the soil, up to 6 feet. So depending on the size of pig that you have, can root up, whole areas. So they can aerate all the soil, especially say you have, areas where you have a lot of, like, for example, Lenny, where he lives, he has a lot of old fruit trees that are, in kind of bad shape. If he had a pig, borrowed a pig and fenced it off in there, and then the pig could just eat everything that it found and maybe throw some fruit in there and whatever else, extra stuff. But the pig would root around and dig all that stuff up and aerate all of the roots of the trees, and also poop in there and compost it. Would all be natural because plants, their respiratory system is underground. So the more compact the dirt gets, the tougher it is for trees to survive and breathe. And the tougher that the dirt gets, the lack of microbes that are there that help to actually bring nutrient, like traffic, like worms and calcium, because it's too dry. So pigs can be, a really good scenario for if you move onto a piece of land that, hasn't really been worked or taken care of, to actually fix your trees, and take care of, uprooting certain kinds of areas, and cleaning them up. And just think about it. You don't have to rototill that area. So first you have all this crazy grass. So then you get your goats in there, you have them eat it up. And then the next phase is you get the pigs in there to root it all up, right? And then it's like, you don't need all those tools, or you don't need a tractor. You just don't need a whole lot of other stuff. You just rotate your animals in and out. And then if you get a bug infestation in that area, you throw your ducks and chickens in there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And have them, eat it up. So, and this is what, like, we go back to Steiner's work, and this is like a whole organism, right? All these things working together. You're just the catalyst for the facilitator for it to happen. You're the noticer of what needs to happen. And then you choose the right animal, and then you fence it off with like a electric fence or a solar panel, and then you let that animal do whatever it's going to do. You always have night pins for your animals that are safe and secure, and then during the day you take them out to the different areas that you need them to work in. And then they get exercise, they get to do what they're good at. And then that's, and then just think about the level of composting that would happen, put the chickens and turkeys and stuff into an area and let them eat down everything that, all the bugs and everything else that they can get out of there. Then, you throw the goats in to eat down the grasses, and then that poop goes in there. And then, then the next level is you throw the pigs in there, and then they root it all up and everything else and clean it up on a deeper level. And then now you're ready to plant.
Yeah. And in addition, you've been making bacon.
Yeah.
Now, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. So why don't you go through and tell people about, like, your websites, the Consciousness of Economics, and the YouTube channel, and that you and I are both on Steemit. I'm at Lenny Thyme, Thyme. Bridgette's at Bridgette, Bridgnit, and that's Steemit.com. Steemit is a platform that allows people to put out their original work and allows other people to earn capital by reading and commenting on other people's work. So you have curators and you have talented producers, and it's still experimental and being worked out. But Steemit.com, good place. All right, Bridgette.
Yeah, don't use Coinbase to move your Steemit coins, because they will steal it. They stole all my Steemit coin when I transferred it into Ether on Coinbase. And I did a blog on it. So Coinbase, they're bad. They're stealing cryptocurrency from people. I'm on Facebook, Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff, Lyndolgoff. I also have my website, coe-llc.com. And then I have other websites, but I won't mention them. And then YouTube channel, Consciousness of Economics and Urban Farm Project. And then I also upload my radio shows after they come out of archive onto my YouTube channel. And then I also have Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And my show is on Saturdays. This week, I'm actually having a really good guest that took me like 3 months to get. And it's Roger Spur, who runs Mud Fossil University YouTube channel. And I think he has Mud Fossil University Facebook. But yeah, he is like unbelievable. Like, Mud Fossil stuff just blows my lid off. It's like, oh my God. And having been in the medical field, I totally understand like what he's talking about with a lot of the stuff. And I highly recommend people going to his channel and just checking out some of the stuff. And it's all scientifically based. He's proven everything scientifically by having the labs test everything, and he he actually has proof on a lot of it. But he's very poo-pooed in the scientific community because they can't really deal with what he's found.
What time on Saturday is this?
Oh yeah, my show starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Which correlates to 10 a.m. on Pacific. I go on at 10 a.m. because I'm on Pacific, but it's 1 p.m. And you can go to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and look under Studio A schedule. My show is in Studio A, and then you can scroll down Studio A and you'll find it there on the right side. It's a bee with pollen on its legs flying to a flower, and that's where my show's at. And you can kind of read a little bit of a bio about me. I did have a co-host, but she had a psychotic break, and she fired herself from the show. So, and I still don't really know, what her deal is. She just kind of went off the deep end and went,
Revolution Radio and Steampunk Radio are also both available on the TuneIn app, which is a free app that can be downloaded to tablets, computers, phones, and other electronics. So if you're not aware of the TuneIn app, definitely look it up because it's a free app that lets you hear all sorts of alternative radio stations, not just the things that they put on your radio dial.
Right on. Well, that's a good push for that. So
Yes.
anyway, people, if you have been listening out there, I also do appointments and I do a consultation. I do healthcare for animals and people. And I also do, nutritional consulting. I do hands-on work, obviously, if you're in my area, or I'm in your area. And so I can work with people long distance if people want to make appointments and help. Sometimes, what I'm finding out lately is that doctors really are not communicating with people. And now that they're cutting back on a lot of the pain meds, people don't really understand the terms that doctors are using, and doctors are not really communicating really well with people. So sometimes I'm getting a lot of business right now where I kind of help to explain to people like what they're being diagnosed with, what it really is, and also maybe helping them to find a nutritional approach that may help. And also, a little bit of consulting about the drugs that they're going to be taking. And what the long-term effects of those drugs are, and so that they can make like a better choice about what they're going to do.
Yeah, I used to do some consulting in that area also, and there's this one gentleman who was taking 25 different drugs, and they had 40 pages of conflicts between the drugs that I could generate. And it was just amazing how much the medical profession doesn't know about the drugs they do. Would you be willing to come back again next Thursday and do this again?
Yeah, no, I would, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't get to talk about today because we're going to talk about AI and a lot of more helpful stuff about mind control and stuff like that, So yeah, I would love to come back on. Let me take a look at that. So, yeah, that would be fine. That is the 9th.
Good. Monday this week in the first hour, I'm going to have Richard Allen Miller on as a guest.
All right.
And so it will be interesting. I think I'm going to have him on by phone and be broadcasting through this same channel. So if you wanted to pop in and listen, you're certainly welcome to come here. And you know the format for the show. If a guest wants to mic in, we'll recognize the guest, and he's going on an adventure here coming up, and I'm going to be peripheral to the adventure. So life is good in the world. I am starting to get busy enough that I have to start making plans of what I want to do, because everything can't get done the way I've been doing it, which is when I feel like it, because I now have some deadlines to meet where I'm not going to be here for a while. I'll still be here on the radio. I'll still be here in the Discord room, in the voice chats. Discord is an app that allows 24/7 peer-to-peer contact anywhere in the world. So if you can figure out your clocks right, you can have a conversation with a fellow in India, but that's 12 and a half hours away from here. And that half hour is always an entertaining thing for dealing with. There's some people in the world who are offset a half hour to regular clocks. A lot of people in the world. Anyway, Bridgette, thank you very much for coming by. We just went off air.
Okay.
So,
Did we lose you again?
nope,
Got you still.
I'm still here. My electronics just cut off, and so I need to go and do things like turn the station off because it's going to try and reconnect.